Hi guys, so when I did this fire element reading, I noticed that like two cards came out and one of them was water, and I was going to reshuffle, but then I thought, well, no, because fire came out and water, so I must need both these cards. And I took both of them, and they both, like, if you put the numbers together, 4 plus 3 is 7 and 6 plus 1 is 7. And I also got the 7 of cups. So yeah. So I just thought this was awesome. So anyway, we're going to dive right in. And my first cards, I wanted the mystical shaman oracle to be kind of like the essence of the reading, like what's kind of like at the core. And then so we have water as the first one, number 61, and it says, water symbolizes purification, regeneration, birth, revival, and cleansing. It signifies an evolutionary shift from the former self to the new self. Many myths around the world speak of a great flood and the new life that is revealed after the deluge. I always say that wrong. Water begins without boundaries. Then, as soon as form has separated itself from water, it becomes under the laws of time and life, thus acquiring limitations. The invitation says, when water arrives, you're invited to watch your emotions. Know they are going to be changeable, and do not settle on conclusion that at this time. If you feel joy, feel that fully. If you feel sad, allow sadness to move through you. Water invites you to see the ebb and the flow of events and trust that you can ride the wave of opportunity when it arises. Natural flow is here. Go with it. So I think that's interesting. Like, if you are a water sign, you might want to, if you resonate, even if you're not and you resonate with this, you might want to watch the water one. And oh my goodness, people, my birth numbers have been popping up every 5 minutes. Anyway, I just had to mention that. They're not any of these numbers, but, well, there's a 4. But I don't know, my head has just been over analyzing, but that's okay. That's what we do, right? So anyway, and then we have our second card. I'm going to read it and then I'm going to connect them. And the second card is a rattle. So, and this card's beautiful. Let me just tell you, I love this card. I think its message is beautiful. So we have number 43 with a rattle. And it says, the rattle is the spirit caller, carrying the shaman's prayer to the four directions. The body of the rattle is like the earth spinning on its axis. With the aid of the rattle, the medicine woman instills a desired destiny into her future. Closing with the prayer, Great Spirit, may your will be done. The rattle guides us to pray for all the earth, not just our own personal needs. When we offer our prayers for the highest good of all, everything we need is provided for us. The rattle comes to invite you to work with the tools of spirit, but be careful. They are very sharp and can hurt you and others if they are not used mindfully. Set your old tools aside and take up the drawing of the instruments of spirit. You are consciously stepping into partnership with the divine. This is the time for courageous deeds. Do not let your hesitation get in the way of your expression. And I think that's beautiful. So I'm glad that those came together because, with water and fire, because this is the reading for fire, it's kind of like understanding that that connection of how sometimes we're very expressive in the way that our emotions are, and the water card kind of warns us about jumping to conclusions, but also allowing it to flow. And then the rattle card also, it talks about using the tools of spirit. So using those tools, the emotions are all definitely a tool of spirit too, but also knowledge and if you have a listening ear, that's important too. So it's kind of telling you how a lot of times the tools of spirits can be used for good, and it also can kind of sweep us up too. Sometimes we can get swept up into like emotions or ideas, and then we kind of lose everything, right? And that's another way that it can harm. It can kind of take up our time, or it can kind of distract people. Like if you're telling them the wrong thing, then that can be part of it too. I remember when I was a kid, I was like a teenager, and my brother was going to go to school to be a preacher. Now remember, we Midwestern upbringing, like there's a church on every corner. And I remember like he had kind of expressed something where he wasn't really into it. And my first words to him, then you shouldn't do it. And I'm kind of glad that I told him that, because he's not a bad dude. He doesn't like go and do bad things just because he's not into being a preacher anymore. But he kind of got jaded when he was learning about a bunch of things. And he kind of was like, it almost learning about stuff kind of made him realize that it wasn't really what he was into. But, and I told him, I said, you might disappoint mom or you might disappoint grandma. I said, but the thing is, you're not going to have an entire congregation that literally does everything that you say, because people will do that. If you say something to them and they believe deeply in your words, they kind of lose themselves and they don't pay attention to, like, you know, the whole aspect of it all being a connection with others and being, you know, doing the right thing, not just for yourself, but for others too. And so, you know, if you're kind of like one of those people that, you know, you're out for yourself in a negative way, then, you know, you're going to lead a bunch of people that way. Anyway, so that's just I don't even know if that is going to relate to this. But also it's, you know, not allowing yourself to kind of get lost in your emotions or swept up in an idea or the passion of something to where it's detrimental, right? And so we go to the energy. So this is somebody who has, there's the Seven of Cups. A lot of times the Seven of Cups can be like confusion. It's too many like ideas or thoughts or whatever, but it also could be, and I like to think of it this way, that it's actually a lot of, there's so many directions that you have to go. These are possibilities. These are possibilities in where you could follow your emotions, or this is also, you know, the possibilities in, you know, a relationship or a spiritual path. These are things that you have so many options that you could pick. So in that way, it could be confusing, but it's also telling you that, you know, you kind of make your own way, right? Just like, you know, with the water, it's kind of like the water is formless until it's put into something, and then it adapts a form and shape, and then it's kind of limited, right? So you're kind of unlimited like water, and fire is in that way too, because when it burns, it just, you know, if you allow it to be uncontained, then it kind of takes over. So it's kind of about allowing yourself to flow without restriction, but not unchecked, right? Because unchecked whatever is, you know, goes against the whole balance of everything. So, and then my card of what would be our shadow. So I like to say, oh, well, you know what? I want to go down here. Because when I flipped the whoever this person is, I got 2 crow cards. So this also has the death card in it. And if you look at the last reading, we had Santa Muerte, which she's like the goddess, female holy death. I just love that. She's so beautiful. Anyway, but so this also tells me like this is part of that transformation, right? So in a way, I feel like somebody is kind of having like a huge rebirth or an awakening, whatever you want to call it. I always like to say it's a remembering, or it's kind of like a restructuring in a way, if you think about it. So with this fire, this deep, like inner burn, we're burning away that old self, and we're kind of rebuilding ourselves, right? So this is telling me with the death card and the Seven of Cups is saying that you have so many options, right? You've been rebirthed, you know, so there's so many options to take your next step. But be mindful and using the tools of spirit, but also in being mindful and allowing yourself to flow without being unchecked. And so then we go to our shadow card. And this is really cool, like the way that they do this card. This card's pretty cool. And again, our shadow is just, they're parts of ourselves that we've kind of repressed, right? So they're things that need to be expressed or ventured into deeply in a healthy way. It's almost like when you kind of like, to go along with the rattle, like when you go into something, and I don't know why, but the number 43 is speaking to me, because I have to tell you, the reason why number 44 means a lot to me, there's another reason too, just because like when my birthday numbers are combined, it kind of makes that, but whatever. But it's also because the year when I was 44, I was going through a lot. And I feel like it was almost like a test. And then I don't know what it was. It was like, I kept seeing like 44 forever. And then like when I got to be like 44, things kind of like, I saw things better. I don't know. I don't want to say it's like an awakening, because I feel like we kind of go through those little things all the time, but I think it was the next step. So I don't know. Maybe that's something that means something to somebody too. And so we go to card number 4, which is love. It says number 4, and it says the love illustrated in this card is not to be confused with Eros. The card represents the original unifying force, the basis for universal solidarity that consents our evolution and change. It is a continuous phenomenon, a flow originating from the first cry of our universe to our galaxy, down to the planet we inhabit, and a web that connects to every single atom, and that reminds us that our present derives from the past, and that it is in our best interest to act constructively to build a positive future. The advice of the dead: Act responsibly, bearing in mind not only your needs, but also what they will cause in your environment you live in. Exactly. Like, so I think this just says kind of what that says. So we have the water card, right? That's, feeling our emotions and allowing them to flow through, but understanding that we don't want them contained too much. We don't want to be restricted, but we can't go unrestricted, because then, that's how the floods happen and all those things, because there can be destruction either way. And I love that the rattle is that way too. It talks about the beauty of, working with spirit and all that way. But if you're doing it in a selfish way and you're not thinking about the people around you, then, and that's why I love this card, because this card talks about, how you need to think about the future too. And we need to stay in the present, but at the same time, the things that you do affect the future. And just like the past affects us now. And, whether you believe that time is linear or non-linear or what have you, we're in this reality and you can't escape it. If we can someday, that's fine. But since I have kids, I can't escape it. I'm not allowed to escape it, because otherwise my kids become in their 40s trying to do what I'm doing to try to undo what my parents did. Do you know what I'm saying? That's the whole meaning of generational curse to me, is undoing in steps. We refine who we really are, and we unlearn all the bullshit that we learned from our parents, that they learned from their parents, right? And I'm sure that there's steps along the way that we miss, and there's probably some mystical thing that, explains all of it. But in this reality, I can't sit there and go, well, you know what? This isn't real, so I'm going to ignore my kids' needs. And you know what I mean? So in a way, that's kind of being selfish too. So, that's my mini rant for the day. So I don't mean to offend anybody, but it's really hard to stay in a mindset of, not being in reality. You need the practicality to keep you grounded, right? I mean, when my kids are grown and taking care of themselves, then maybe I can do that. You know what I mean? Because I believe that there's so many things that I don't know, but at the same time, there's things that are here and now that I have to take care of, because if I affect my children in a different way when I'm gone, that's only going to affect them. You know what I mean? Because that's what progresses. That's what causes our generations to evolve, and we've seen the consequences of crap that's kind of gone from one generation to another, and how that kind of disevolves. But in a way, you think about that. Think about all the things that we notice. Like, let's think about right now. Think about the things that have happened that kind of push people to kind of stop and think, wait, this isn't right. Even if this has been the way that it's been for so many years, I can do something about this. I can change this. I can make my life about changing this, right? So I feel like that's part of it. And then, so we go to the 10 of Wands, right? Yes, that's hard work. But for me, the 10 of Wands is all about that spiritual deep work that you've done. And you're at a point where you're about to reap the rewards. And then the thing is we have to remember that those rewards are not like, okay, you're done. Now there's no more hard work. It's kind of like that whole concept, like the more you know, it doesn't get easier. It's almost like it's easier in the way that like you're able to handle things in a different way. Whereas when we were kind of like in those moments when we're oblivious and we kind of forget, the whole idea and like our spirituality and ourselves in that way, when we're not as aware, and we're more blind to that way, and we're more into the negative parts of things, how you're not able to handle things. But it's almost like, the universe throws stuff at you like, oh, hey, wait, good, you figured that out, so let's work on this thing. And then they just throw you a big curveball. But at the same time, you're able to handle that. And then through that, things are changed, whether it's in you or the people around you or the situation around you. So I think this is beautiful. I think this is somebody who is having a deep transformation, and this is their journey. And if I wanted to listen to all the cards back to back, because I think it has something to do with that too. It's almost like you can pick any part of it, and it kind of talks about, the whole evolution of us, and why we we advance for a certain ways, but sometimes we have to take a couple steps back because, some people evolve in a wrong way because we don't grasp those deeper parts of ourselves. We don't allow ourselves to be who we are. And so we take on what other people say we should be. And at the same time, sometimes we think that we need to be a certain way when we really don't. I think all in all, this is somebody who has a million choices with that Seven of Cups. This is somebody who you really could go any direction right now. You could go with the flow. And, you know, way back in the journey card, and I think that was the earth element. It's really talking about, you know, like this life is the journey, right? So I feel like for somebody with this Ten of Wands, there is something at the other end. And what it is a better understanding and a better appreciation for your life. And through that, you can kind of give those gifts, those spiritual tools, right? And the ability to flow and use them wisely. And so sometimes knowledge makes you have to do more work, but you enjoy the work because that's what's really speaking through you. So I ranted and I raved and whatever. And I hope you're still with me. And if you are, I appreciate you so much. And I will talk to you guys later.